Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Empowered Women Now. I almost like messed up my own saying there, Tara. That's hilarious. I love it. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel. I'm here with your host, Tara Weir, and we are being transparent today.
Yes, we are. Real.
It's how we roll. It's what we do.
Let's be real, man.
We're being real. It's how we do. I love it. Well, great episode last time. I can't wait to talk about this one because I feel like what you keep doing is peeling back the onion of the issue, right, that is in the way of women rising.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like our world is in a place where women are on the cusp of rising, and I feel like we need that.
We do.
Yep, and I feel like you have a lot of perspective on that. So, walk me into this. Like we're titling this the cultural issue of agreeability.
Yes. Yes. So I would imagine many women can relate to this. That I was raised in a family where I equated being agreeable with being acceptable, and being agreeable with belonging, and being agreeable with being loved. And I think in our culture, women are expected or tend to be expected to be agreeable and to go along.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really holds our whole society back, because if we're not all speaking our truth, and we are not all being honest and authentic and really coming from our own voice, and we have this drive to belong and this drive to be accepted and this drive to be liked, that overpowers our own voice, and then we're not bringing our best. So that means, to quote this sad statement, but we're only as strong as our weakest link. And if somebody's not able to really bring their best, then that team, that organization, that community suffers.
Yeah, put that in the context of, like, you were giving me an example beforehand about a project manager, or if you're wanting your team to perform.
Right. So you've got a leader, whether it's a male or a female. We have a leader, and they have a project that their team is working on. There's a portion of their team, assuming that there's diversity in gender, there's a portion of their team that's potentially pulling themselves back. They are wanting to belong. They have this compulsion to be accepted, to be liked. And, and there's an expectation. Again, Sheryl Sandberg writes about it in her book, Lean In, is that there is a cultural expectation that women are, tend to agree.
Right.
And so if a leader has had a team working on a project, they're not getting their best. And that holds everyone back. That holds the project back. That holds the team back, the company. And it actually holds the men and the other people at the table back from being their best. Because the truth is in, if you have an individual and they're a high performer, they could outperform a group if that group is not high performing.
Right.
Okay. But if you have an individual and you have a group that's high performing, then the research shows that group will definitely outperform that individual, because
makes total sense.
Because of the perspectives, because of the different talents and skills that are coming to the table. Right. So that makes sense. But if you're not getting the best from your people, then it's not reaching its potential for high performing.
Right.
And it could potentially be because there's a portion of them holding themselves back in self-doubt and probably an unconscious desire to fit and belong.
I was going to ask if you felt like, is the agreeableness something that we consciously know we're holding ourselves back? Do you feel like it's under the surface and it's just part of the rhythm of our life? Like,
well, I would say for me, it really depends on, I believe, the evolving of a person, because I definitely know that I started in a place where I was very unconscious about it. And then I became conscious and said, ooh, I'm doing that, and I really want to shift that. And then I realized this is really hard to shift. So like, I was conscious of what I was doing, but I really wasn't in a place to shift it. And then through development and practice and work with coaches, I was able to get to where now I'm aware, and I can really identify my voice, and I can be aware of, okay, I have an urge right now to be accepted, and I'm afraid that if I speak up, I may not belong, or I
Right.
may not be seen as agreeable, and I'm okay with that. And I need to
Mm.
speak my truth.
Mm.
So I think it's an awareness, it's a level of awareness, and
Right.
that varies from person to person and from
Yeah.
really organization to organization.
How did you, when you went from unconscious to conscious, like, how did you see it? What did you notice?
It's an inside feeling.
Okay. Yeah.
It was like an incongruence. It was a being out of my integrity. It
Right.
was realizing that I was not living up to who I've come here to be
Mm.
and what I have to contribute.
Mm.
That to me is the saddest part, is that there are so many women that have a lot to contribute, women that are starting their own businesses, but still that are on the end of not believing in themselves. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
we all have come here to contribute to this life, this
Mm-hmm.
time we call
Mm-hmm.
life together.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want everyone, men and women, but I just really understand
Mm-hmm.
the female side of things, in that we, we have unconscious habits that hold us back. And
Right.
I want everyone to be their best,
Yeah.
to contribute the way they've been called to contribute.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I feel like there is a moment when you move from unconscious to conscious, and now you're like, oh, I see that I'm doing this. Ooh, like there would be I would be confronted by all the places I see that I'm doing this. How do you start to take action on what you
Mm.
see? Do you just speak up and hope it goes well? Or do you go practice for hours in your closet? Like, how do you actually start to, you know,
That is
speak
such
up?
a good question. That is such a good question. And I think that goes back to our last episode about the learning lab,
Mm.
and that
Mm-hmm.
lens. Like, that's a lens to say, I'm a learner
Mm.
and I see this and I want to change this and I
Mm.
want to grow in this area. So I am going to set a goal for myself that I will, in the next meeting, if I don't really speak up usually, then in the next meeting, I'll share an idea, or,
Mm. Yeah.
baby steps
Yeah. Right.
to taking action. And then
Mm.
I know that then practicing self-compassion,
Right.
that is the
Mm. Mm-hmm.
core of everything that we do as we learn, is practicing that self-compassion.
That feels like a good 1-2 punch, in the sense of, like, on one hand, you're making something actionable. Maybe it's even just raising your hand for something, or volunteering to lead
Yes.
something, or you're
Yeah.
just taking these baby steps into what's next, like action, right? Versus holding back and being agreeable and letting, like, just, and then on top of that, it's okay, I raised my hand, now congratulations, pat myself on the back. Don't be snarky, like, oh, you didn't raise your hand high enough. You're like, hey, good job, you raised your hand.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
focusing on what I did, that I liked, that worked,
Mm-hmm.
that it's like, it's, oh yes. So this is one of my favorite things to work with when I work with individual clients,
Mm-hmm.
is that coach voice versus the critic voice.
Mm.
And what I want my clients to do, and what I see over and over again, is they develop that internal coach, the coach that says, good job,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
sounds super corny. And it
Mm-hmm.
makes a difference, because either way, it's like, which wolf am I going to feed? Am I going to feed the
Yeah.
critic, or am I going to feed the coach?
Right.
And I'm feeding the coach, because the coach is the one that's inspiring
Yeah.
me, encouraging me, and reminding me it's okay, you're learning.
Right.
Or, hey, that was really risky. You did a great job. You stepped out of your comfort zone. Give
Right.
yourself credit for that. That's the coach.
Yep.
So it's, and the critic, the critic is saying, be careful, and Brene Brown, and I totally agree with her, the critic often comes from shame. We're trying to protect ourselves from being ashamed and
Right.
unlovable, because if I say the wrong thing, then I might be not lovable.
Right.
But it's saying, okay, the coach hears the critic is afraid of appearing foolish, or whatever that is. And the coach can coach the critic.
Yeah.
The critic has a good eye for detail, and the critic can help us be our best.
Sure.
And the coach can also be the encourager and the one that keeps perspective.
I like that. When you said that, it made me think of sometimes when I hear the critic, I'm quick to want to shut it down. I don't want to listen to the critic because it's uncomfortable to be criticized. So I'm like, go away. I don't want to hear what you have to say.
Right.
But if you can be with the critic and partner with the critic, so ultimately, if the critic is trying to protect us rather than harm us, right? It's like, It's protecting us from shame. So we're like, hey, remember last time you did this? It didn't work out so well. Don't do that again, right? It's actually in a very primal way trying to protect, not hurt you. Yeah, go ahead. I see you.
Well, this is our brain, and our
Yeah.
brain is wired to protect us. Our
Right.
brain would rather be wrong one time out of a million
Mm.
than risk being
Mhm.
wrong more than that. So
Right.
it's protecting us. And so that critic voice
Mhm.
is trying to protect us.
Yeah.
And it has a purpose. It
Right.
has a way
Right.
to serve us, but it's how we respond to that whether we can utilize that or whether we diminish that, and because forcing it away isn't going to allow it to
Right.
do its job,
Right.
but we're trying to keep it in perspective, and that's what the coach view
Mhm.
can really do. It's like, okay, what do you have to offer me? Okay, you're the one that helps me make my PowerPoints really perfect.
Mhm.
Not
Mhm.
right. No, nothing's perfect.
Right.
You made an error. You know what? That's okay. You're human. Everyone
Right.
makes errors. So
Yeah.
it's keeping that balance, and but it's there to serve us. It's not an evil.
Right. Right. And you also want to just, I would imagine, come from a place of understanding that, and this is why we say, like, thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Yes.
thank you for sharing. I'll take what you have to say into consideration, but it's not like the truth. It's just a perspective. And it's this, I know there's a book called Shadow Work, or Shadow Effect, or there's a lot of stuff that happens down in the shadows. And until we actually get comfortable, I'm going to say this as a man, and you can totally shoot me down here as a woman. So I feel like, based on some things you've said, like, for women, there's a lot of stuff that lives in the shadow, and they just haven't gone down into the shadow to deal with it. Right. And as women begin to deal with what's in the shadow and partner with the voices in the shadow, all of a sudden there isn't the shame. And if there isn't the shame, then they don't need to be agreeable. I think agreeableness is kind of, because that's the topic of our deal here today, is agreeableness is a survival mechanism.
Yes.
And we do it to try to protect ourselves and not put ourselves out there. Because if we put ourselves out there, then we're not protected.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I think that if we haven't looked at our shadows, that's when it's unconscious.
Right,
and
right.
That's when it drives us and we don't realize it's driving us. It's like that operating system in the background that just is there, but we're not aware of it.
Yeah. So good.
Seeing life as a learning lab, and also saying, I am going to open my awareness to unconscious habits and unconscious drivers. So what's that operating system? And then looking at it, becoming friends with it, and being able to really see the value for it, but not be driven by it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
The agreeability comes from. I really do think that is, and I think as a culture, women have that as a cultural shadow.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's really deep. I love that. I would imagine in the state of unconscious, like just not conscious of the things we do to sabotage our voice, right? And being agreeable. Agreeable could show up like I'm being a team player. Like right before I'm conscious of it, I'm like, oh no, I don't say anything because I'm a team player. Like I'm agreeable because I like what everybody has to say. Everybody has really valid points. And right, like, do you sense that at all?
Yeah, and I think that there's a time and a place for that. I mean, we don't always have necessarily something to add to it. So I think that's realistic to say that there are times when but I think the question is that true? Is that true in my heart? Do I have something to share? Do I have another perspective? Am I holding myself back? So I think it really comes to the question of what's the truth here?
Yeah.
And the truth may be, yes, I love those ideas. You guys totally spoke what I was thinking, right? Or they're on a great path, and I love that. I'm going to support this. Yes, I'm in. Or maybe there's something in me, and I'm not allowing myself to be creative and open my mind to adding to that and contributing to that, because I may have an unconscious belief that if I'm not agreeable, then I'm not accepted and I don't belong. And even deeper, I'm not loved,
Right. Wow. I'm present to what a pervasive I want to call it a problem, but what a pervasive condition
Mm-hmm.
this is, right? For, I would say people, but we're framing this for women, and I'm not a woman, so I can't speak to that. But I feel like it's such a pervasive condition for created out of survival, like we said, you know.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
How do we start to move out? Well, let me ask you this way, because you do a lot of this kind of work. Like this is,
Absolutely.
you come speak to people. This is what you speak to in organizations, at conferences, keynotes. This is the kind of stuff that you speak to, right? And then in your work in organizations, this is, you might use presentation coaching as sort of the sandbox to do the learning lab of this,
Right.
right?
And
But this is the kind of work you do.
Yeah, and the reason that I use presentations and public speaking is because it is one of the most vulnerable places people can be, is up in front of a group, and all the voices, and
all the stuff,
all the criticisms come up, whether it's how I look or what I said, or if I'm going to forget all my words or whatever it is, that place of vulnerability, and being able to learn from that hot moment, learn from that intense time of showing up. That is such a beautiful place to be able to transform some of these beliefs and habits.
Yeah. So good. I love it. Well, that's a great place to wrap. If people want to reach out to you for speaking to their organization or at their event, or maybe they want to work with you, have you come in and work with their team over time to sort of create that transformation where they're getting the best out of their team, how do they reach you?
They can go to my website at powerfulconnectionsnow.com, and they can just click on let's talk, and we can start a conversation.
Yeah, so good. Tara, thank you for bringing this work out to the world, and I just love it. I think it's so important. We're ready for it. The world is ready for women to rise.
It really is. It really, really is. Absolutely ready. It's time. And it's our job, inside and out, to help.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care.